Miss Hui Ye+Fist Wish, do not dismantle CP. Time travel has become a home-squatting, stone-top priority, and I don't want to learn, but learning is not such an inconvenient thing. As long as I touch the fish, I can become stronger, play games for 1 hour, reward math mastery +1, take a 40-minute nap, reward English proficiency +1, read comic books for 10 hours, reward breath of rock. It seems like something strange has infiltrated, but it's normal for the top student in my grade to be invincible, isn't it? I originally wanted to live a down-to-earth life, but unfortunately Nintendo set its sights on their own company, Wandai, and wanted to annex it through a fist wish. Upon hearing that their opponent was a monster known as the Destroyer, with a height of 2.43 meters and a weight of 315 kilograms, they ran away overnight carrying a train. Since that's the case, I won't pretend anymore. Come over here. Keywords of the novel. Me, Shishang, King of Fist Wish. No pop-up window. Me, Shishang, King of Fist Wish. TXT complete collection download. Me, Shishang, King of Fist Wish. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. The Name of the Demon God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The name of the demon god Tokyo. As night falls, there is an unknown madness hidden beneath the intoxication of money and paper. An underground parking lot in the port area is guarded by more than 10 black bodyguards at the entrance. Only by presenting a special invitation letter can one be allowed to enter. The spacious parking lot, illuminated by large incandescent lights like daylight, even with a hint of stuffiness, seems to contain special magic in the air, which can stimulate the most violent and restless instincts in people's hearts. Under the dazzling lights, there was a bloody and cruel scene like a arena, with the two wounded still fighting each other, blood and sweat soaking the ground. Kill that brat, ha ha ha. Well done, *******, that's it. Give him a hard punch in the face. Step on his head, *******, up, trash, get up. Kill him, ******, I'll give you all the money in my hands. Everyone is wearing masks to conceal their identity, so they can fully unleash their nature. Various vulgar language emerges from the mouths of these adults in suits and shoes. During the day, they were elegant and refined, while at night they were like thugs and ruffians, tearing off the veil of civilization and revealing their wildest side. When the opponent on the field had their neck twisted and completely collapsed in a pool of blood. The atmosphere on the field reached its peak, with flying banknotes everywhere and people raising their hands and shouting loudly. The host, who was already accustomed to it and didn't even look at the loser covered in white cloth, smiled sweetly in his slim and tight clothes. So, next is tonight's highlight. Oh. Finally here. The host passionately raised his left hand and pointed to the big screen. A huge man emitting a terrifying aura, naked on his upper body, raised a pair of muscular arms, and was grinning happily. Nakamura Yao was once a martial artist under the commercial banner of Qin Shan, known as the Ripper. Participated in the legendary boxing Wish Assembly, due to its cruel methods. Due to being banned, he stands at 1.97 meters tall and weighs 160 kilograms. His long and powerful hands can easily crush giant rocks in a dark room. Looking at the powerful figure on the screen, the middle-aged man in gorgeous attire slowly exhaled a smoke ring. He is the owner of this underground boxing ring, and it took him a lot of effort to find this killing machine. The former martial artist punches here as a gimmick, as long as he becomes the signature here. Then my place is not a small boxing arena that cannot be seen on the stage. Yao sang, don't let me down. He remembered his opponent tonight, gave a cold laugh, and fiercely pressed his cigar onto the coffee table. Humph, how can amateurs beat professionals? Even if it's you, you'll die at Yao Sang's hands, right? The host took a deep breath and let out a trembling voice. The opponent of tonight's Ripper is that man. Her slender and fair hand gently grasped, and the dazzling light instantly illuminated the darkness. A tall man wearing a meticulous black and white sword suit and a red cowhide headband walked out of the darkness, his huge and terrifying muscles propping up the clothes, making him look like an out-of-body sword sharp enough to cut through the air. Although everyone present was familiar with him, he couldn't help but hold his breath in the face of this aura. His identity is unknown. His age is unknown. With a pair of fists, he suppresses all disobedience. He wears a bull Tauren mask, a man like a swordsman. He claims that bull warriors will never take off their mask, and currently they have 10 victories without defeat. Our old friend, bull Tauren warrior, he is here. Minasan, tonight is the battle between the new king and the old king. Let's wait and see if the Tauren warriors can slay this river-crossing dragon off their horses. In the center of the blood-stained field, the referee wiped the sweat off his head and faced 2 strong monsters. To be honest, he was under a lot of pressure. Nakamura Yao squinted his eyes and gestured to the Tauren warrior with a beheading gesture, revealing his tongue and an uncontrollable killing intent on his face. Slaughter you, kid. I'll let you know what professionalism is. But after defeating a few stinky fish and rotten shrimp, don't be complacent. Why don't you pretend to be M. Faced with the opponent's provocation, the Tauren warrior remained indifferent and had no waves in his eyes. This made Nakamura Yao even crazier, his agile hands constantly wriggling. He was thinking, which bone is better to break? Forget it, he might as well crush all the bones in his body, showing a cruel smile. He loved listening to his opponent's howls the most. With the referee's command, the game began. Bang! Nakamura Yoshihide disappeared, and the ground was cruelly crushed by him, with fragments splattering. If Ririn's grip is the world's #1, then Yao Nakamura's grip can definitely rank in the top 10 in the world. He can break his wrist with Julius, who cannot separate from the second form, and his hand naturally hangs down to touch his ankle. The weapon is 1 inch long and 1 inch strong, and the fist is the same. Combined with his grip strength, it is even more terrifying. He is notorious because in boxing competitions, once he gets red-eyed, he likes to crush the opponent's head, which is too cruel and bloody, and he is banned. Yao's learning combines Jeet Kune Do, karate, and Nordic Alcatel giant swordsmanship into one, which he calls Jaws. Once entangled by him, like a python entwining its prey, the opponent's bones will shatter. Nakamura Yao appeared behind the Tauren warrior, his iron-fisted hands tightly gripping his arms. Yao showed a cruel smile as he wanted to pull this guy's hand off alive. It's over. He exerted a fierce force. But in my imagination, the scene of blood splattering did not appear. Curious and strange, this feeling is not holding onto a person's arm, but rather a towering mountain that remains motionless. Oh, is that all? Upon hearing a cold voice, Nakamura Yao looked up and looked down on me. His forehead was bulging with veins, but soon his anger intertwined with fear because Yao saw that guy's hand easily break free from constraints, lifted high like a battle axe, and then fell into darkness. Before he lost consciousness, the only words in his mind were, "Monster." With a loud bang, it was as if a heavy hammer had hit the audience's heart, and everyone's hearts suddenly stopped for a second. Breath of Rock. Type 2. Sky surface fragmentation. The move, as strong as the one that even Black Death Mao dared not forcefully accept, turned Nakamura Yoshitaka's upper body into blood mist as if hit by an anti-aircraft howitzer. Only half of the body remained, losing support and falling down. Not to mention the arena, cracks appeared on the load-bearing walls around it. The smoke dissipated, and the audience looked at the man on the stage who looked like a demon god. When the first person bravely shouted, "Bullhead Man," everyone on the field immediately started cheering one after another. The host just woke up like a dream. Winner. Tauren warrior. The man walked out of the fighting arena without looking back, clenched his fists, raised his head high, as if responding to the audience's enthusiasm. In the personal lounge, an incredible scene appeared. The huge muscles, as if leaking air, began to shrink, and the bulging clothes suddenly became loose. It was easy to take off the mask, revealing a delicate face. His name is Shishang, 18 years old, and he is an ordinary first-year student in the high school department of the private Shoji Academy. Today is his last day as a Taoran warrior. Greater than or equal to less than or equal to, new recruits seeking support, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Lord, a man you will never get. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. Victory is justice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Victory is justice. Shishang family mansion. Sayaka AI tied up her soft golden long hair with a headband to fix it into a side ponytail, and changed into a black and white maid outfit, making her look sharp and refreshing. Standing aside, reporting work to her owner. The object that Hayasaka loves to serve is the eldest daughter of the Four Palaces Foundation, known as the heart of the country, with a total assets of 200 trillion yuan. Four Palaces Nobyoshi. Sitting on the bed with his long black hair casually draped over his shoulders and dressed in a luxurious silk camisole nightgown, Shishang Hui Ye's fair little feet swayed from time to time. The bright ruby-like eyes narrowed, inexplicably giving off a sense of oppression from superiors. So, Sazaka, you came back tonight without any success. Hayasaka AI lowered her head. Yes, I'm sorry, Mississippi. When I arrived at the lounge, the bullhead warrior was no longer there. Miss Hui Ye stood up, gently hugged AI Hayasaka, patted her back, and whispered in the little maid's ear, don't apologize to me. Wasaka, as long as you're by my side, that's enough. And I didn't have much hope in the first place, that mysterious and powerful fighting warrior, bullhead warrior. I heard that big brother and third brother are also looking for him, and they can't do things they can't do. Hui paused for a moment and chuckled at himself. How could we possibly do it? Without a martial artist, there would be no martial artist. Maybe my family will send me one later. Hayasaka loves to look at Kagaya with a forced smile, feeling very sorry in her heart. Miss Hui Ye has reached adulthood, and in a few years, it is inevitable that she will interfere in family affairs. As soon as you enter a wealthy family, it feels like the sea. The troubles of the Shishang family cannot be explained clearly in just a few words. The young lady was not born in the main family, and Hui Ye's mother passed away early, so it can be said that Hui Ye is not well received in the family. There are 3 older brothers above her, who want to share the power of the Shishang family from their hands, from being a manipulative vase to a helmsman. Without the support of powerful martial artists, it is simply absurd. As long as there is the support of the Bull Taoran warrior, Mrs. predicament can be easily solved. That man may be able to compete with the Tooth of the Destroyer. Hui let go of Asaka AI and quickly adjusted her mood. Okay, let's not talk about these unpleasant things. The beautiful eyes immediately appeared mist, shaking Hayasaka's hand. Sazaka, listen to me, he will be the president today. Hayasaka AI felt a severe headache every time she heard the young lady mention the president. She looked at the spoiled young lady and sighed. In short, miss, the battle you wanted President Silver to voluntarily confess has failed again, hasn't it? Woo-woo, help me, Hayasaka. After making a guest appearance in a romantic relationship with a dog-headed military strategist in the company, Hayasaka AI ended her romantic relationship and dragged her tired body back to her room. Miss used to be such a smart person, but now she has become like this. Love is really a terrible thing. The young lady naively believes that love is war, and the person who confesses first will suffer. In fact, she has to take down the man she likes. Tie it in your hand, isn't it fragrant? Children only see the process, adults only need the result. She had already taken a shower late at night, and it wasn't until 5:30 in the morning that it truly belonged to her. As a maid of the Shishang family, it is normal to work non-stop throughout the year. The girl's expression quickly regained her indifference and she skillfully opened the locked drawer. Take out the phone inside, it only has one contact person. As usual, please edit the itinerary of the young lady for today, including what she said, who she interacts with, and so on, and send it as an email. Click send, wait for confirmation that the other party has received it, then turn off the phone and lock the drawer again. Everyone has their own way of survival, sandwiched between the eldest lady in the vast Shishang family. She can only survive in the cracks, or rather has no choice at all. At the moment when the Hayasaka family, once one of the 4 major families in Kyoto, lost to the Sagamiya family in a boxing competition betting on their fate. The fate of their entire family has already been predetermined, and they have become consumables for the Shishang family for generations. The winner gains everything, the loser loses everything. This is the cruel boxing and vow competition. No matter how many reasons she has, this fact that she is a despicable and shameless traitor cannot be washed away. They grew up together since childhood, and she knew the hardships of the young lady. The only maid she could trust around her was herself. But she repeatedly betrayed her trust. The girl looked at herself in the mirror and murmured to herself, "Zazaka AI, you are really a woman who is not as good as a scumbag." With a blank expression, I opened a pink app and searched for 100 methods to mercilessly kill Slim to start watching. This is Hayasaka's way of relaxing and very relaxing. But for some reason, the previously very interesting videos have become dull and uninteresting. She turned off her computer and lay in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. She turned her body slightly and accidentally saw the coffee on the table that had not yet been consumed. There seemed to be a different color in her eyes. The girl buried her head in the blanket. It's late at night, and the room seems to have a vague presence but not a presence. The sound of crying is imperceptible. The next morning Shishang yawned and walked slowly towards school, wearing black circles under his eyes. I watched the comic too late last night and almost couldn't get up in the morning. Cats, the sound of a bicycle braking came from behind. Oh, Shishang, I've been so lethargic all morning. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Ishiyama turned his head and smiled, saying, "The president is the one. Has your dark circles under your eyes worsened again? It would be better to be more appropriate in front of Sister Shishang later." Ha! What's the matter with the 4 palaces? Speaking so, the young blonde with fierce eyes became very nervous upon hearing Shishang's words, and even took out a mirror from his pocket and began to take care of himself. The person who greeted Shishang was the president of the student union of the high school department of the private Shoji Academy, by Yushin. The man who, as a mixed school student, climbed to the top of the top 1 in the prestigious Shoji Academy. Also in the original work, the guy who pulled Yusuji out of darkness and brought him to join the student union. He is a particularly charming person, and no one would dislike a genius who works hard. When President Bain saw Shishang holding back his smile, he immediately understood and patted his shoulder hard. But the hand that slapped on the younger generation felt like it was hitting the hard rock, shaking its numb hand and laughing and cursing, "You dare to make fun of me, kid? Hush, it hurts so much. Come on up, I'll give you a ride, otherwise you'll be late soon." Shishang shook his head. The back seat of the silver president's bicycle was reserved for the future 4th Palace senior sister. Don't worry about me, President. I promise I won't be late. As a member of the student union, I will lead by example. Bain looked at Shishang, who was several hundred times more cheerful than at that time, and gave a thumbs up to the younger generation. "Then I'll leave first." "Well, goodbye, President." Shishang looked at his distant figure and quickened his pace. Xiao Ziyuan is actually from the Shishang family, with the chairman being the eldest brother of Miss Hui Ye and the immediate superior of AI Hayasaka Canary's bird cage. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Big Buddha and Small Bull want to make the stone happy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Big Buddha and Small Bull want to make the stone happy. The pillar in front with white marble patterns is the gate of the Shoji Academy, which has a history of 200 years. When Shishang had 9 minutes left before the class bell rang and was still 300 meters away from the school gate, he wiped away the non-existent sweat on his head. Finally, it's almost here, pressing against the deadline is truly me. Standing at the school gate, Big Buddha and Little Bowl looked at their friend Izuno Yoshiko with a gloomy expression, holding a document board and whispering in their mouths. Why haven't you come yet? Are you sick? The school gate is about to close. The Big Buddha and Little Bowl were wearing a pair of wide and heavy glasses, making it impossible to see the fluctuations in her eyes and also covering up most of her beautiful face. They are two disciplinary commissioners who specialize in inspecting students at the school gate to see if they are carrying prohibited items or wearing clothes that do not comply with the regulations of the Shoji Academy. Some golden hair is a repeat offender. Xiaobo gently touched Izuno, who was squatting on the ground counting ants, with his hand. Zayamizi, look, Miko, who had just been lost, saw that figure and her small body suddenly became full of energy, standing up. Izuno launches a skill towards the stone, salted fish spike. Izuno, lively like a deer, ran along with a file board and shouted angrily, da-da-da-da-da, on the stone. Shishang was not surprised to hear the emotional cries, as this scene would be performed as long as the girl was on duty. Watching the girl, who was only 1.5 meters tall, blushing and panting as she ran in front of her, Shishang smiled and said hello. Good morning, student Izuno. Izuno, who was interrupted to cast spells, seemed to be choked, but still responded well, good morning, Shishang. No, Shishang, you guy. Why are you here so late today? It's almost time for class, do you know? We are students from Shoji Academy. Ishiyama Yoshitaka faced Izuno, who was like an old mother, with her waist crossed and educating her, feeling helpless. Okay, Lord Izuno, I won't do it next time. As Shishang spoke, he voluntarily opened his backpack and showed it to the girl. The disciplinary committee has the right to view student belongings. Looking at the proactive cooperation of Ishizuru, Izuno nodded in satisfaction, glanced roughly, and murmured softly. There aren't any game consoles today. Shishang heard the girl's words and slightly raised the corner of his mouth. The game console was left in the student council room, so he didn't bring it today. Then he opened the middle layer of his backpack, deliberately letting the girl see. Izuno Rida suddenly issued an alarm, with a face bulging. Ah, Shishang, you actually brought a comic book to school, I confiscated it. But when the girl saw the familiar cover of the comic book, her face was filled with joy. Lucky, she had to quickly hide it. Last week, in order to cover up the game console, Yusuji Ishikawa specially bought a manga for girls as a cover. As a result, every time he passed by the disciplinary committee office, he could see Izuno reading this manga with a silly smile on his face. Considering that a serious Izuno would not buy a manga for girls. Last night he saw an update to this girl's manga at the convenience store, so he bought one and brought it to her today. I don't know what I'm thinking, hee, Izuno with a silly smile. Shishang couldn't help but touch her little head. The girl's soft hair was like masturbating a cat. But soon, he reluctantly let go of his hand, because if he touched it again, the girl would explode, and Izuno had already begun to grit his teeth. Big Buddha and Little Bowl quickly approached and hugged Izuno, who was waving his teeth and claws. Alright, Zayamizi, if you drag on any longer, Shishang will be late. Shishang nodded to Xiaobo, packed his things, and ran away. 3Q, Small Bowl, watching the young man enter the teaching building, Big Buddha and Little Bowl released their hand holding their friend, Zayamizi, let's also finish work. Izuno looked angrily at his good friend, Xiaobo, why are you blocking me? It's just a stone. And did he just call your name? Big Buddha and Little Bowl are very adept at dealing with their good friends. They don't respond, pushing the petite girl forward while perfunctory, it's time for class, Zayamizi. After all, you don't want to be late either. But Izuno was easily suppressed by the Big Buddha and Small Bowl. Shishang saw a new message uploaded from his phone, which was a portrait of Xiaobo, get it done, greater than or equal to less than or equal to. He smiled without replying and walked into Class B for a year. The classroom, which had just been lively, suddenly became quiet, as if pressing the mute button. The truth about Shishang has been revealed. One day, the whole story appeared on the campus forum, even causing a huge uproar. But what's strange is that the initiator, Ajino Guang, seems to have evaporated from the human world, and no one can find him. Only Yasuji Ishikawa knew that Koichi Ajino was still swimming happily with little fish in Tokyo Bay. Why would he know? Because it was him who did it. Ajino Guang did such an outrageous thing to the original owner. How could a Shigami bear it? It's cheap to stuff it into a cement bucket, that kid. So everyone knows that Shishang is not a bad person anymore. Why are you still so distant from him? Ordinary people sometimes don't want to admit their mistakes. Not to mention that those people are all born with golden spoons as children of the privileged. Arrogant, they cannot accept that such intelligent individuals have been used as perpetrators of campus violence. If everyone is wrong, then it's not wrong. Continuing to treat it as if nothing happened is the best arrangement. Ishigami Yoshitaka is also happy to be idle. Anyway, he has already seen the true face of these people. As long as he gets along well with his friends who care about him. Shishang arrived at his seat, and on the other hand, Izuno and Daifo Xiaobo were also his classmates. Izuno is his front desk, he sits against the wall, and on the right is a small bowl. Not long after, Izuno and Kobo also returned. Izuno made a funny face at Ishiyama, snorted, sat in front of him, took out his book, and started reading. Xiaobo smiled at Shishang because it was time for class and he didn't say anything. The first class is the most boring math class. Shishang yawned and began his daily fishing routine. He took out a single Bluetooth earphone, covered his left ear with his hand, leaned his head against his hand, closed his eyes, and began to catch up. The bright sun shone on the young man. The wind blew by, and the Buddha's small bowl could still smell the pleasant fragrance on his body. Under his broad glasses, his gentle and watery eyes curved and smiled. I took out a phone that I had spent a lot of money purchasing from China and quietly took a photo of a young man. The breeze was not dry, and the sunlight was just right. Xiaobo has always had a secret buried in her heart, but in fact, she likes Shishang. She envies Zayamizi very much, and can even be said to be jealous, not being able to afford to fight with Lord Shi. She has always been a very greedy woman, and when she becomes friends, she wants to go further. So she restrained herself very much. She knew that her hypocritical self couldn't bring happiness to Shishang or deserve him, so as long as she could see him happy, it was enough. When exactly did I like him? Did Shishang take the initiative to speak up for himself after being exposed to rumors of campus violence? She still remembers the sentence, "You guys are clearly jealous of the Buddha all day long," with an endless mix of yin and yang. I still saw Zayamizi being mocked by stickers behind her, and the stone was torn off at once. It was he who secretly sent flowers to Zayamizi and sent a letter, which can be said to have saved Zayamizi. She still often shows it to me now. Shishang is a person who secretly gives without expecting anything in return, which is his gentleness. Xiaobo really likes this aspect of him. There are countless likes in the world, none of which can turn into love. I just need to bless him from a distance, pray for him, and watch him happy. Thank you for the 3 recommended tickets from Ba Shi, and thank you to Li Zongzhen for the hard work of getting up. I would like to request a recommended ticket. Your support is the driving force behind my updates. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Cat Ears, and Heading Squad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, Cat Ears, and Heading Squad. Upon hearing the end of class bell, Shishang slowly opened his eyes and stretched lazily. Really, there is nothing more comfortable than sleeping in class in this world. After taking a nap in class and feeling much better, I glanced at the reward I just got for fishing and then closed the panel. Shishang suddenly thought of something and poked Izuno in front of him. The sudden attack made the girl let out a low cry of surprise. Izuno turned his head and glanced at Shizuma, then averted his gaze as if he had seen something dirty. Why, I don't want to talk to Shishang mushroom who touches a lady's hair without permission. She added stress to the word mushroom to express her strong dissatisfaction. Ha! You mean as long as you agree, it's okay. Ah, it hurts. Thinking about play naughty Shishioshi, Isino kicked him angrily. It's not very heavy either. Perhaps he has rough skin and thick flesh, but instead has a feeling of being lightly scratched by a kitten in his heart. Coupled with Izuno's insect-watching gaze, can't say what he feels, it's quite subtle. Seeing Shizuru's grinning expression, Izuno's heart tightened, but his face remained unchanged and he let out a cold snort. Shishang immediately restrained his expression, pretended again, and rubbed the kicked calf. I just wanted to ask, what do you want to drink, Izuno? I'll be going to the vending machine later. Izuno's face softened slightly. Even if you please me, your score won't increase with me. Hi, Lord Ishino-sama has a large number and doesn't argue with small ones. Strawberry milk. Good. Shishang turned his head to look at Xiaobo, who pushed his glasses. Boyo soda. Okay, the relationship between the three of them is quite good, especially between Yuko Ishigami and Miko III, who seem to be at odds on the surface. They have been arguing all the way from junior high school until now. Izuno is chasing after them, Yusuji Ishikawa is running ahead with a game console, and Kobo has been following them and watching. But reality is like a shooting star that can't make a wish in time, no matter how beautiful it is, it can only be once. Quickly, while fishing, a day passed and after school, I bid farewell to Izuno and Kobo. Shishang walked alone on the corridor leading to the student union room, but strangely enough, the student union room, which used to be filled with laughter and joy, was very quiet. He pushed open the door and saw Sister Sigong and President Baiyin, who were very close to each other, wearing cat-ear headgear and two pairs of bloodshot eyes staring at each other. The Silver Emperor's face was ferocious, like a knife fork. Damn it, getting closer and looking at the four palaces is too cute, isn't it? No, my facial expression is becoming increasingly stiff. Sigong Hui is not much better either. Her wide-open mouth is almost on the tip of her ear. The president is wearing cat ears. How suitable it is. No, the corners of his mouth are out of control. The two of them now only have eyes for each other, not even realizing that there is an extra person in the room. What is the situation? Is there something wrong with his way of opening the door? And a certain fan looked left and right, holding a phone and feeling lost. Seeing the stone coming up, Chika Fujiwara seemed to have seen a savior and rushed over directly. Shishang and help, President and Hui Ye+, sobbing. The gentleman on the stone must hold on to the girl's arm to prevent her from falling. Fujiwara, be careful. Shishang learned about the process, which means that due to the F-country exchange group, they are coming to our school. Sister Fujiwara, you proposed a cat ear cosplay, and then the two of them put on cat ears, and it turned out like this. Chika Fujiwara nodded tearfully. What should we do, Lord Shir? Shishang patted her hand, making Fujiwara feel at ease. After thinking for a moment, she smiled mysteriously and leaned into her senior sister's ear. We'll do this and that again. Chika Fujiwara nodded, as if it was a lot of fun. Ishigami Yoshitaka took a selfie stick from the student union cabinet, put his phone on, and said to Fujiwara, Chika, are you ready? Then, 3, 2, 1, action. Ishigami Yoshitaka held on to President Baiyin, while Fujiwara held on to Sigong and forcefully adjusted their positions. On the stone. Fujiwara classmate. The four of them huddled together tightly, too suddenly. There was no time to react, and when they met the person they liked, President Silver and Sister Sigong almost stopped breathing. Eggplant. The first group photo of Sister Sigong and President Baiyin was born. Shishang looked at the Silver President and Sigong's senior sister sitting weakly on the sofa, and smiled helplessly. This is too exaggerated, isn't it? Just a simple head-to-head meeting can make you nervous like this. What should we do in the future? These two people. Shishang looked at the cat ear headdress in his hand. It was so terrifying, it was confiscated. After selecting a few more beautiful photos and sending them to each of them, she said to Fujiwara and left the student union room. Today is the victory of the head squad. Stepping out a distance, I opened my mouth on the stone. Ellie, I need all the information from the F country exchange team. Yes, young master. Only 10 seconds had passed, and on Yasuji Ishikawa's phone, flight numbers, passports of all accompanying personnel, personal identification photos, their resumes, hotel stays, and other information appeared one after another. Shishang roughly browsed through it. His eyebrows and eyes were extremely cold, like ice that never melts all year round. Oh, this is really a bad person. Then I need to treat you well and not lose etiquette. Glancing out the window, the students on the playground were still sweating, realizing it was still early. Shishang walked to a certain office and secretly glanced through the window crack. His face, which had just been cold as ice, regained its warmth. Shishang didn't knock on the door and walked in directly. The door to the office suddenly opened, and whoever was the most nervous was undoubtedly the one who was the least serious and had a ghost in his heart. While eating snacks and immersing himself in a girl's manga, Izuno, who even had pink bubbles popping out of his head, heard the sound of the door handle turning. With a snap, I closed the comic book directly, covered it with the homework book on the left, picked up a pen, pretended to make changes, and completed it all in one go. Upon opening the door, Ishiyama saw Izuno, who looked like a good student doing his homework. The corner of his mouth tugged, but if he hadn't seen it just now, he would have almost believed it. What? It turned out to be on a stone. Izuno saw that it was not a teacher, put down his pen, breathed a sigh of relief, patted his stiff body from sitting for a long time, and leaned back on the chair. Shishang heard this tone of disdain. Hello, Iano, what's your attitude? Ha! Isn't that my normal tone? Big Buddha and Little Bull came back from delivering materials from the teacher, and when they stood outside the door and heard the noise inside, they understood. She went in and hit 50 big boards on each side directly, which made both sides calm down. Looking at them like children, you hum and I hum. Xiaobo was so angry that he said, all right, Xiamizi, Shishang, you too, and Shishang, shouldn't you be in the student council room at this time as usual? Ishiwaji gave Izuno a temporary ceasefire look. Take out the things I just took out of the student union room from my backpack and show them. Look, good thing, cat ear headgear, thank you for the 3 recommendation tickets from Dark Wu Shantian, the 3 recommendation tickets from Book Friends, and the recommendation ticket from Lao Jia Miyuya. I would like to request a recommendation ticket. Your support is the driving force behind my updates. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Fake Orthodoxy and Unorthodoxy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Fake Orthodoxy and Unorthodoxy. I can't believe it. Shameless. How could you take out such a thing in the sacred school? With 3 consecutive negations, he spoke from Izuno's mouth, his eyes filled with fear. She hugged her trembling body with both hands, feeling insecure, and ran straight behind the small bowl, holding her head and squatting down. When I mark the question mark, it's not that I have a problem, but that you have a problem. Ishigami Yoshitaka had a bewildered expression on his face, unable to associate his cute cat ear headdress with something shameless. Izuno, shut up you, hentai, I've seen through it already. You just want to treat me and Xiaobo like you. Romanized as PE2, Izuno closed his eyes and trembled as he spoke. If you bring your cat ears today, you will take out your collar and rope tomorrow, and you will take them home the day after tomorrow. From then on, you will never see the light of the day. After thinking about the days ahead, Izuno couldn't help but shiver, tears streaming down his face. Shishang has black lines all over his head. What kind of basement tiger? He's a serious person. Who would do that? Besides, I also need your consent. Hello, Yoshiko Iwai. As a discipline officer, NND, I know too much about this. It's all beyond the scope. I really want to knock on her little head. Is it all yellow waste in Kong Kong? Shishang Yu sighed and gave Xiaobo a look. This time I'm here, this little yellow croaker is really going day by day, difficult to handle. Xiaobo obediently stepped aside, and poor Izuno thought her best friend would protect her, so she closed her eyes and immersed herself in her own world, murmuring. It's not clean anymore, Damayo. She suddenly felt a hard object poking her, rubbed her sour eyes, and opened them. I saw Shishang squatting in front of me, and that strange touch was his phone. The girl with widened eyes wanted to stand up and dodge immediately, but got up too quickly. Her legs softened and her body lost control. Her head was about to hit the cabinet behind her, but the imagined pain was not there. Strange, it doesn't hurt. Of course, because Ishikawa had already anticipated it, he grabbed Izuno's shoulder with his hand in advance and supported her small head with the other hand. Just now, Xiaobo, who was still worried about Izuno's injury, suddenly felt relieved. Instead, he showed a hint of Ant's smile, but quickly restrained, as if it was just an illusion. Shi Shangjuan, you are so bold, because the scene in front of me is rare and breathtaking. From a small bull's perspective, it can be seen that Ishino is holding on to Ishino's arms. Izuno leaned against her shoulder on the stone, unable to see her face clearly, but her brown hair draped over the boy's body, and the trembling of fear disappeared. Because on the stone, there was a gentle smile on one side and a rhythmic rhythm on the other, soothing the frightened woman. Izuno has a small hobby, and she particularly enjoys hugging. No matter how much she likes it, it's not much, which is more than 5 times the level of an ordinary person. She sleeps at night, lying on the 2-meter-tall teddy bear because she feels like she's being embraced. She thought that being held in Shishang's arms for the first time would create a feeling of disgust. But she didn't, on the contrary, she was a bit addicted to it, different from the bear's embrace. This embrace was warm, with a miraculous and captivating sense of security, able to accommodate her like a harbor. Cough. Still a small bowl, unable to bear such a greasy and crooked couple. This is a sound discipline committee room, and she couldn't help but cough as a reminder. This cough brought Izuno back to reality, feeling how inappropriate their posture was. She couldn't help but turn red from head to tail, with steam rising from her head. In embarrassment and anger, she used her elbow to directly hit the abdomen on the stone. Fool, when are you going to carry it? Unexpectedly, the stone was hit by an elbow, and the forehead was covered in the letters of Wells. Ha! Who is the person holding my waist and refusing to let go now? I won't say. The two of them argued back and forth, but their original posture did not change much, as if they were silently adhering to the bottom line. Xiaobo patted her head and really impressed the two of them. She twisted her wrist and was about to go up. After 3 strikes and 5 divisions, both Izuno and Ishikawa, wearing cat ear headgear, knelt down in front of the expressionless bull. Izuno had black cat ears, while Ishikawa had white cat ears. Xiaobo slammed the blackboard inside the Fungi committee's room. Stand up straight for me. Do you know that this is the discipline committee office? Ah. The angry little bull is so scary. The thought flashed through both of them simultaneously. The 3 of them frolicked for a while again, and as the sun set, it was time to go home from school. At the school gate, Ishigami waved goodbye to Izuno and Kobo, who didn't give him a good face. Both of them were on their way home, so Ishigami and them were not on their way. Otherwise, it would be interesting on their way home from school. Shishang walked on the road, passing by a park, walked in, sat on a chair in the park, took out his phone, and started flipping through the photos on his phone. I really took a lot of interesting photos today, ha ha ha. I originally wanted to share with Izuno the appearance of everyone in the student council room wearing cat ears. But she interrupted me, so overall it wasn't a loss, it was more like making a profit with blood. Moreover, I never expected that the Izui Yeren was small, but in some way, he couldn't be underestimated. In Ishikawa's phone, not only are there photos of President Bai-in and senior sister Si-gong, but also photos of everyone in the student union. There are also photos of Ishikawa, Izuno, and Kobo wearing cat ears. The three of them have also taken many photos together. The phone on the stone vibrated, and he saw the note on the screen and pressed the answer button. Hello. The voice emanating from the stone suddenly became heavy and oppressive, with a hint of authority. A very cheerful voice came from the other end of the phone. Oh, sorry. Anyo, I just had a boxing wish. I just saw the message you sent me earlier. Alright, I'll take it. Maybe it's quite fun, F country's martial artist. I hope you can fight a bit more. Yes, and by the way, Anyo, let's have another game when we have time next time. Let's first agree that I won't lose this time. I will definitely take off your cowhide mask. Shishang listened to the chattering voice on the phone and remembered the way he had been beaten to a pig's head by himself last time. He smiled, but his words were as precious as gold. He replied lightly, okay, and then hung up the phone. The person on the other end of the phone was not angry, but full of fighting spirit, and cheerful laughter filled the lounge. Bull Demon King, hero, we're going to challenge you again. Shishang stood up and looked at the sky, thinking of the guests who came from afar tonight. He prayed for a second for them, hoping that they would be okay. It's time to buy some groceries. Tonight, we can have dinner together and add a few more dishes. Shishangyo impressed his parents with his excellent grades, and now he is able to move out and live alone after buying groceries and returning home. Shishangyo, who was washing vegetables and cooking, changed into home clothes. When he heard the doorbell ring, he ran out to open the door. Here we go. Shishang took out a pair of pink slippers from the shoe cabinet and handed them to the girl who came in from outside the door, dedicated to small bowls. Here you are. My contract was sent by mail, and the actual signing may take a few more days. The contract is on its way. I would like to express my gratitude to my contracted editor Su Muda and the responsible editor Hui Ye+Fist. This is also my first time signing a contract, and there are many things I don't understand. They patiently taught me that my electronic signature real name authentication was not successful, so I had to send it by mail. Thank you all, my dear readers. Your support is the driving force behind my updates. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Inadequate Hospitality. Above. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Inadequate Hospitality. Above, Xiaobo put down her backpack and just now she sent Izuno home. Buying some more things on the way, I arrived directly at Ishigami's house. She's not here for the first time, and she's not very unfamiliar. A house of approximately 70 square meters, with an open kitchen and a spacious living room, forms a small home. The environment is very clean, and the warm-colored lighting creates a warm atmosphere. And the air is filled with the smell of Shishang Jun. Xiaobo looked at the busy stone and smiled slightly. What about Tiger Taro? I heard the sound of a small bowl exploding on the stone of Tianfu Luo and replied, it should still be sleeping on the sofa. Xiaobo, when you sit down, be careful not to sit on it. Xiaobo walked lightly to the sofa, which was made of pure black fabric and very soft. There is a little guy lying comfortably above, small and dark, like a coal ball, integrated with the environment, and indistinguishable without careful inspection. Xiaobo finally found this little guy in the corner of the sofa. The girl's eyes were very soft, and she crouched down and reached out her hand, slowly caressing it. It's really easy for me to find. The little one in his sleep felt the girl's touch and began to unconsciously make a gurgling sound. And Xiaobo's hand was also rubbed against by this little head. For its affection, Xiaobo took out the small snack he had bought for it from his pocket, tore open the packaging, and placed it very close to its nose. Its cute little nose twitched slightly, and the small bowl actively brought the snacks to its mouth, allowing it to smell more clearly. Smelling the fragrance, the little one didn't sleep anymore. In an instant, he opened his eyes and began to eat big meals. So there's such a beautiful thing in this world, waking up with cat strips to eat. Watching its tiger-headed and tiger brain focused on cooking, Xiaobo was amused and laughed happily. Upon hearing Xiaobo's cheerful laughter, Shishang looked up from her busy schedule and saw that the one person and one cat in the living room were getting along very happily. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and she was happy. Tiger Taro is a black kitten that is about 5 months old. Don't look at its carefree appearance now. A month ago, it was a pitiful abandoned cat left in the corner of the street by human flow. The name, Tiger Taro, was chosen by Xiaobo, hoping that it can grow up healthy like a tiger. And this little guy, as black as a coal ball, is also the stranger that little Bull is most familiar with, except for the first encounter in the Izui wilderness. The parents of Big Buddha and Little Bull are both well-known artists and have been model lovers on screen. Inheriting the fine bloodline of the two of them, Xiaobo is even more adorable and debuted as a child star when he was young. In junior high school, everything changed, and Xiaobo suffered from gossip from classmates and society because of her mother's negative news. Mother's misconduct destroyed the small Bull and her only home, and her father fell into a state of decline and soon retired. Last month, Xiaobo received a message from her mother, hoping to see her once. She agreed, naive enough to think that her mother had changed her mind and wanted to come back and live a good life. But when Xiaobo, who had been carefully dressed, saw her mother again, her heart was only filled with disappointment. That woman is holding on to an old thing that can make a small bowl of grandpa even at an age. She said she wants to marry him and hopes that Xiaobo can go to America with her. She also promised that as long as Xiaobo went, he would definitely become a world superstar in the next 10 years. She doesn't know if Xiaobo can become a world superstar. But that old man looked at her greedily, and his disgusting gaze really made her nauseous. After completely giving up, the small bowl poured the water from the cup onto the woman. Without looking at those two people, he ran out directly. It rained heavily in the sky, and the continuous rain even cut off the street lights, enveloping everything in mist. Passers-by saw a girl wearing a red dress running in the rain, including a guy wearing headphones and staring at the clerk's white eyes while reading free novels in the bookstore. Why is love such a fragile thing? Xiaobo couldn't understand that his parents, who had been cowardly for so many years, would all become illusions. Love is just something so ridiculous and not worth mentioning. Her chest hurts so much, there is an emotion that seems to have left her forever. In order to vent her depression and distress, I don't know how far I ran. The heavy rain made the disheveled girl look very embarrassed, with one hand supporting the wall of the alley. Suddenly, Xiaobo heard something, a faint but very clear voice, and she stumbled into the wall. In the corner, she saw a black kitten, seemingly unaware that it had been abandoned, still shouting steadfastly, hoping that its former owner could come back and take it away. Xiaobo walked forward and wanted to touch it with her hands, but she was afraid that her hands, which were full of rain, would make the little one catch a cold, so she stopped in mid-air. But to his surprise, this little guy took the initiative to come forward and rubbed his little head against her, and surprisingly didn't dislike her at all. "Ah, Big Buddha, you're going to catch a cold like this, I never thought I could be here, hear such a familiar voice, turn my head, and see the cold young man standing in the rain, Shishang. Without asking anything, Shishang took off his coat and draped it over his small bowl, covering up the graceful curves of the girl's clothes that had been soaked by the rain. Shishang handed the umbrella to Xiaobo, squatted down, tore the cloth in the box into a suitable shape, wrapped the obedient kitten, and stuffed it into the girl's arms. Seeing Xiaobo stumbling on the stone, he furrowed his brow. He was angry at the girl for not taking care of him so much. His ankle was clearly twisted and he was still holding on. "Oh, Shishang, you," the girl let out a scream of surprise as the stone picked up her princess directly, but because the kitten was held in her arms, she dared not move and froze. "I won't listen to you if resistance is ineffective and you don't take care of yourself." Xiaobo never imagined that one day he would be held by the princess so strongly by the person he secretly loved. Her heart was very chaotic, especially with a thumping heart, but after all, she didn't resist this kind of tough tenderness very much. Moving his body, he buried his head in his arms on the stone, preventing the young man from seeing his flushed cheeks and letting out a slight whimper, while the kitten was the only witness. Meow. It was on this rainy night that I found my own cat and that girl on the stone. Another point to note is that the umbrella on the stone is customized according to the size of the Tauran warrior, so even if the small bowl is held by the princess, it will not get wet. Xiaobo was still recalling his unremarkable self at that time when suddenly he felt his fingers wet. Upon regaining consciousness, it turned out that the cat Strips had finished eating and Tiger Taro was licking her hand. She lightly patted the kitten's head. It was gone, little greedy cat. Xiaobo touched its head and let it play on its own. Then she took out the kettle from her backpack and took a big gulp, her throat burning hot, but she still swallowed it desperately. Shaky and wobbly, standing up, I have to finish today. Thank you for the 6 recommendation tickets from Diangxi, the 4 recommendation tickets from Taisher Corn Whiskers, the 4 recommendation tickets from Shenmeng Big Boss, the 4 recommendation tickets from Yan Wuji, the 3 recommendation tickets from Yaniju, the 3 recommendation tickets from Ba Shi, the 3 recommendation tickets from Book Friends, the 3 recommendation tickets from Yanwu Xiantian, the 2 recommendation tickets from Playing the Pig and Eating the Mouse, and the 2 recommendation tickets from the old demon head Wujian ancestor who entered the dawn and dream. Above all, thank you for your support. Your support is the driving force behind my updates. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Inadequate Hospitality, Part 2, Seeking Monthly Tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Inadequate Hospitality, Part 2, Seeking Monthly Tickets. East 9th District 19.56 minutes and 38 seconds. A private plane with a black-violet emblem on its fuselage quietly landed at Tokyo Haneda Airport. In the darkness, the black-violet, which is the symbol of the F country's Venerant family, is one of the oldest martial arts families in Europe, with ancestors serving as royal guards in many countries. In the luxurious private plane, the air was filled with a sense of solemnity. 6 burly men unbuttoned their seat belts and grinned, standing up and punching each other. They are the latest warriors trained by the Venerant family. The F country exchange team of Shoji Academy actually has 2 groups of people, one is Ming and the other is Dark. Their task is to shine the glory of their family on this barbaric land, so the first goal in their eyes is to destroy the Fist and Wish Society, which is nothing but the tooth of the destruction hull. A golden-haired man with 3 ferocious scratches on his face and red eyes, he bit his fingers and twisted his body with excitement, unable to control himself. Ah, I can't wait anymore. Captain, give the order quickly. I'm going to tear up those thugs, not a single one. Upon hearing his words, the elegant silver-haired man in a black religious robe closed the Bible and squinted his eyes. Cain, you still can't hold your breath. Take a night off tonight and let you have a good fight tomorrow. But. Well. Cain wanted to say something more, but when he saw the captain's dangerous expression on his face, he closed his mouth. Let's go, the plane has stopped. Stepping off the plane and standing on the runway, the captain opened his eyes. Something's wrong, the surroundings are too quiet and there's no one to answer. Bon. Jura vous, what's going on? Ah, I forgot again. Damn it, I don't care, it's annoying. A sturdy, inch-haired man with one hand scratching his head walked out of the darkness while flipping through a booklet titled, 100 Most Commonly Used F Words for Tourism in Country F. His name is Naoya Okubo, and the awkward F language just now came from his mouth. Tonight, he accepted an invitation from his good friend, Lao Nyo, to entertain these uninvited guests. But it's really a bunch of vicious guests, Samada, it's so scary. 1 on 6, speaking of which, I haven't had a group fight in a long time. Okubo Naoto smiled and moved his body, posing for a fight with his fist in front of him. If possible, could you please take a plane back obediently? This road is not accessible. On the other side, the Ishigami family Xiaobo lay on the bed on the stone, with his thick glasses removed and placed aside. At this moment, she is like a sleeping beauty in a fairy tale, her slightly furrowed eyebrows only make people feel heartbroken. Tiger Taro obediently squatted on the side, very quiet, without meowing. It also seemed very worried, occasionally touching her with its paw pads. Shishang picked up a towel soaked in hot water, wring it dry, and gently wiped the face of Xiaobo. Remembering her crazy behavior just now, I stroked her hair and felt immense pity in my eyes. Why are you so foolish? Just an hour ago, he was forcibly kissed by this girl. Touching my lips on the stone was definitely not a wonderful experience. Because it mixes the taste of high-concentration distilled alcohol, which is the favorite bird vodka of a certain fighting nation. This is also the reason why she is currently drowsy. How much did she drink, really? But that's not the point is that she rushed up to the high ground and used a big move, actually to surrender. At that time, the little bull that was crying with pear blossoms and rain touched the cheek of its favorite boy, choking up, Shishangjuan, I like you. I really, really like you. This is my love that has been buried for many years. I thought all I needed was to be able to look at you from behind, but I realized that I couldn't do it myself. As long as I stand by your side, I am so greedy that I want more. The suppressed emotions in my heart constantly suffocate me. Watching you and Xiaomizi play around, I actually feel jealous of my best friend, this dirty emotion. Even though I was her only good friend, and during my junior high school years, you protected me and saved me from campus bullying. But I am such a terrible person. Perhaps you left me alone in the first place, which was the best choice. Faced with this kind of self, I cannot forgive myself and I am very disgusted. So I am so despicable that I am not worthy to stand by your side. Forget about me now, and I will disappear in front of you. Xiaomizi asked you to speak on her side, I really have no face to face her. Tiger Taro also asked you, sorry. Remembering the bits and pieces of herself and Shishang's past, she felt immense pain in her heart. She tried hard to force herself to put down her hand, but suddenly she seemed to have been pressed the shutdown button. Xiaobo's crying eyes suddenly lost focus. Because she had already consumed a lot of vodka, coupled with her emotional excitement, she accelerated the speed of alcohol fusion in her blood and collapsed directly in her arms on the stone, so it became what it is now. Shishang flipped through her backpack and found the transfer notice. Surprisingly, this guy was going to Hokkaido, and it was still the most remote place there. I really don't want them to find her again. Of course, Shishang couldn't have let such a thing happen. He directly asked Ellie to delete Xiaobo's transfer application from the education system. Alas, go and make some kanji. The child hasn't eaten anything. There was a small gap left by gently knocking the door on the stone, and Tiger Taro was staring at her. My head hurts so much, where is this? And this unfamiliar ceiling is so thirsty. The small bowl lying on the bed slowly opened its eyes, its head heavy and heavy, and its throat dry to the point of smoking as it wanted to be weighed down with a heavy weight. Tiger Taro saw the girl wake up and quickly jumped out of bed and ran to the kitchen, biting her pants on the stone. She was very anxious and meowed. Seeing Tiger Taro's anxious appearance on the stone, he understood. He took a cup of warm water and a bowl of kanji and returned to the room. One hand gently lifted her body, while the other hand held a cup and slowly fed her water to drink. As the warm water poured down, Little Bull's pale face slowly turned red. Xiaobo stopped Shishang from continuing to feed water and said hoarsely, sorry, I promised to disappear, but it caused you trouble again. After speaking, she struggled to get up and wanted to leave. The stone was directly enraptured. He grabbed the quilt and wrapped her tightly. Looking at the small bowl like a rice and vegetable roll, he nodded with satisfaction. Xiaobo saw Shishang take out her transfer application hidden in her backpack, and her pupils narrowed, wanting to reach out and grab it. Can be tightly wrapped, how could success be possible? I can only watch helplessly as the paper is torn off by the stone, sobbing. Listen up, Xiaobo. You said you don't deserve to be my friend and Izuno's friend. It's not your family's opinion to make the decision. You unilaterally terminated the contract, but I don't agree. On the stone, she picked up a spoon and gently blew kanji, which was so strong that she put it into her mouth. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will find you back, I swear. So, don't say such things in the future. After half a bowl of kanji was fed, the quilt wrapped around the small bowl was loosened on the stone, and the quilt and pillow were spread out for her to make her feel more comfortable. Finally, I patted her little head and couldn't help but feel angry, and if you tease me, I want to run. Oh, that's such a good thing. Take a nap, I'll settle accounts with you tomorrow. Shishang wanted to carry a plate and leave, but one hand tightly held onto his hem. He only heard the guy cover his blanket and say softly, accompany me. Looking back at the private plane, Okubo Naoya, who was bruised and purple all over his body, thoughtfully helped each of the 6 HXDs fasten their seat belts. Oh, I almost forgot, and this one too. He took out a blood-stained Bible and covered the face of his good brother, covering his once elegant and handsome face. He walked up to the trembling driver and lightly patted his shoulder. It's been hard. Oh, remember to drive faster, maybe they can still be saved. Okubo Naosu also stepped off the plane, raising his head with one hand high. Poor hospitality. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. With you, year by year. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 10. The knot of setting down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The knot of setting down. Xiaobo, here you are. Shishang handed her the math test paper that had been written in imitation of Xiaobo's handwriting. He completed a math test paper on both sides in 3 minutes, which was the composure of the first-grade chief of Shoji Academy. As for other subjects, teachers usually teach them directly in class, so there is no need to write about them. And the math teacher is a particularly stubborn old guy. He won't just be lenient just because your family is rich and powerful, and those who deserve to be scolded have to be scolded. He knew that Xiaobo didn't have time to do homework last night, so to avoid the girl being scolded, Shishang directly helped her write it down. Doing homework is a very distant word for Shishang, who belongs to the privileged class who does not need to do homework and can sleep in class. Take a look at Shishangyo, the god of war in the office. That day he went crazy and got full marks on all subject papers in front of all the teachers. The impact on the teachers was unimaginable, as Shishang, who was supposed to be relegated due to poor grades, suddenly transformed into an all-around athlete. The atmosphere had reached this point, and he even wanted to say, 30 years, cough 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 cough, and then they reached a deal privately. If Shishangyo wants to win the first place in the national mock exam for 3 years, then he can handle things conveniently in school, and the content of the transaction cannot be disclosed to other students. Shishang finished writing the exam paper and felt a bit sleepy. Let's take a nap later. Just as she lay on the table, she heard the door of the classroom open, but the petite woman walked quickly to him with a tiger-like voice carrying her anger. Pa propped her hands on the table, her brown hair swaying with the owner's movements, and her tone softened by 3 points because the school rules said that the classroom should not be noisy. With a hint of suspicion, she just saw Shishang give the test paper to Xiaobo. Shishang, did you just do something that violated the school rules? Holding arms on the stone, not at all weak, how could it be? You read it wrong. If usual, Izuno would argue with him, but now that she has something more important, she snorted coldly and ignored him. Izuno walked up to Kobo and worried, saying to his good friend, Xiaobo, are you okay now? Yesterday, you didn't reply to the news, but you were so worried about me. Since Xiaobo walked into the classroom, he had lowered his head and rubbed his skirt with both hands restlessly. Upon hearing Xiaomizi's words, I reluctantly lifted my head. Izuno's pure and purposeful gaze, pure and full of concern, seemed to reach her heart, and all the dirty and filthy emotions in her heart seemed to be purified. Yes, Pure Siamese and Shishang were the only wealth she had with nothing, but it was only then that she realized. Xiaobo's heart trembled, and her eyes were moist. Her heart was filled with immense happiness. Fortunately her actions were stopped by the stone, otherwise. Tears of regret kept flowing down, and he opened his hand to embrace Izuno. "I'm sorry, Siamese. I'm sorry." Izuno suddenly got hugged and felt a bit lost. "Hey. Xiaobo, what's wrong with you?" If Xiaobo leaves without saying goodbye, who will suffer the greatest harm will undoubtedly be Izuno, who is currently being held. She was too selfish, talking to herself and thinking she was right, so she arranged everything. She thought this was good for everyone, but now she knows it's just her wishful thinking and self-avoidance, and it will hurt everyone. Without authorization, I entrusted my love for Shishang to Siamese, hoping for their happiness. This is irresponsible behavior. Xiaobo often secretly sacrifices himself in places they cannot see, enjoying the satisfaction brought by his own emotions. It's really ridiculous. She's just a self-pulling clown, a bad person who meddles in other people's emotions at will. When she saw that she couldn't bring happiness to Shishang, she even became angry with Siamese and said many hurtful words. She is really an incompetent friend, as two people who became friends during kindergarten. She knows Siamese and loves the right things deeply. When I was in elementary school, I was the first to come to school every morning, feeding the fish and changing the water for the flowers. I have never violated the teacher's teachings and did everything she believed was right. Even if not understood by classmates and even subjected to campus bullying, I still persist in doing the right thing. But she is not actually a person with a strong inner strength. She can be said to be very timid and fragile. Several times, Xiaobo encountered Siamese quietly hiding in the toilet crying alone. When others maliciously treated her, she would also feel sad and sad. After crying, Siamese immediately returned to the serious discipline committee member. Xiaobo knew that the girl who pretended to be strong was going through a lot of hardships, so she always stayed by her side. For Ueno, Xiaobo, as a friend, is actually just as important as that letter. She is her spiritual pillar, and if she loses it, her collapse is an inevitable result. And Xiaobo only thought of himself, without considering Siamese. Previously, when Ishikawa saw Izuno being held by Kobo, he stood up and stood in front of the two of them. The fierce gaze on the stone intimidated many people who wanted to see the excitement because they didn't understand. Although they are very curious, their lives are still very important, so terrifying. Their eyes definitely kill people. After the sobbing from behind gradually subsided, Shishang took out a few napkins from his pocket. Handed to Izuno, gesturing for her to help wipe Xiaobo's tears. He knew that these two girls were inseparable from each other. Xiaobo is like this, and so is Izuno. Just untie the knot in Xiaobo's heart. The so-called friends are meant to be tolerant of each other. There is no perfect person in the world, and everyone has some flaws to some extent. Don't underestimate anyone. As long as the patch on Xiaobo's side is fixed, their friendship will not deteriorate. Shizuka smiled as he watched Izuno carefully wiping tears for Xiaobo. You two, you both need to be okay. Zayuzuyuan banquet hall, only 4 people are busy. President Baiyin, senior sister Sigong, senior sister Fujiwara, and Shishang. Everyone was disheveled. The F Country Exchange Group's dinner is going to be held here tonight, and the principal actually asked these students from the student union to organize it, which has exhausted them. Shishang arranged the tables one by one, Fujiwara spread out the tablecloth on top, and Sigong was responsible for placing a vase on the tablecloth. President Baiyin climbed up the ladder and took care of the spider webs on the surrounding walls. Shishang hung the banner welcoming the F Exchange Group from the Shoji Academy on the wall, and the preparation work was basically completed. Finally completed, the 4 of them looked at each other in embarrassment and smiled at each other. However, looking at the previously dirty and messy banquet hall, it has now become luxurious and beautiful. It's just 2 different appearances, that kind of pride in labor is really good. But at this moment, hurried footsteps suddenly came from the door, and the closed door was suddenly opened. A student from Shoji Academy who was unfamiliar with Shishang, sweating profusely, stumbled and ran in. As soon as he got excited, he knelt down on the ground and said anxiously, "President Silver, things are not going well." End of this chapter.